Hello friends, I'm Kayla. When you're watching this, it is day one of Summerween, which is a week-long readathon about bringing Halloween into the summer season. I'm filming this a little ahead of time because I need to decide my TBR. I have no idea what I'm going to be reading. I have way too many options, and I think I figured out a way to organize it, so I'm pitting a bunch of books against each other. So this video is just that. It's my thought process, it's planning the TBR, it's reading the first chapter of a whole bunch of books, deciding what to read, seeing if it fits in the challenges that the creators Gabby and Olivia have given us. And then I have categories of my own. I am going to be posting 3 vlogs throughout the week. There's going to be a 1 and 2 day combined, a 4 and 5 day, and a 6 and 7 day. I'm traveling. I'm on vacation during this week. I'm actually on vacation like right now as you're watching this, but I'm here a little bit ahead of time deciding what I want to read. I think reasonably a 5-book TBR makes sense, and so I want to read 5 different things that I feel like encompass the Summerween intent, and also fits into the 5 categories of things I like to read. So I want to read a cozy mystery, I want to read a short story collection, an anthology, I want to read a horror, a thriller, and something that's weird and speculative. It could be a little horror, it could be a little thriller, maybe it's literary fiction. So I have things in each of these categories to pit against each other. First up, we've got cozy mysteries, a genre that I have gotten more into the last couple years, and I have 2 I want to try the first chapter of. We have Against the Current by Olivia Matthews, and the second book in a series that I gave 4 stars to the first book. The second book is called Murder is a Piece of Cake or something like that. So let's flip over. It might even be tomorrow when I get a chance to read all of these chapters, and I can let you know which one has won the battle. I think I'm starting with The Hardest Decision because these 2 books are the same. So in both of them, we have a woman who owns a bakery, and there's a rival bakery. The owner of each of the bakeries dropped dead at the beginning of the book. So this one we have Lindsay, and her family's from the Caribbean, and they're opening up a bakery that's been her dream for a long time. It's called the Spice Isle Bakery, and now she's being implicated in the murder, and she has to figure out who did it. In this one, it is the second book in a series, and so I already feel a little connected to the character, but it's not really edging it out as far as first chapters, because the first chapter of this one was a little less intriguing because it was just recapping everything that happened in the first book. So you remember like who she's in a relationship with, that she has this pet dog, and all the responsibilities that she has. She's inherited a bakery in this one, and she's just this rich girl from the city, so she's living a small town life, and nobody thinks she can really do it, but she pulls it off. Neither is clearly the front runner, but this one does involve a competition, so I feel like I'm gonna lean towards this one. Next up is short story collections. I love having these going for a readathon because you can read a story a day and still complete an entire extra book. Also, I just love short stories, and normally I would think an anthology, just reading the first chapter isn't gonna give me a good idea if I'm gonna like the anthology because it's by a bunch of different authors. So the 3 that are up against each other are all singular author short story collections. We have A Sliver of Darkness by CJ Tudor, who I've liked books from in the past. We've got 19 Claws and a Blackbird by Augustina Bastarrica, who I've liked a book from in the past. And we have an author I haven't read from before, Morgan Talty, with Night of the Living Res. The first story in each of these 3 was so incredibly different. It feels weird even talking about them in tandem like this. So Night of the Living Res, I'll tell you right off the bat, is the one that I'm easily deleting because it did not feel like horror. It felt just like general fiction. And I also am pretty sure from what it seems, because the first story was only like 3 pages. So, and I didn't really get it. So I read the second one and it felt kind of connected, and I was like, what's happening? And then I think all the stories are connected. I think they all are following the same man. They're just different portions of his life. So some of them are going to lean scary, I think, but I don't know. I was questioning, like, did I convince myself this was horror and it's not because it just sounds like Night of the Living Dead? But yeah, Tommy Orange says it's brutal, raw, and there's beautiful power in these stories. He laughed and cried. So this is not exactly what I was expecting, though I'm sure there are some scary stories. And then this one was clearly horror, but I didn't really like it. I don't know if the translation, I haven't really felt like this ever before. Reading a translated work, either I like it or I don't like it. I haven't really experienced a book that I feel like I could like if I was reading it in the original language, but I just feel like the translation is a little off. At least in the first story, it was called A Light, Swift, and Monstrous Sound, and it just didn't really work for me. It was only 4 pages, but it feels more in line with Summerween than this one because this one was like dystopian, the first story. It was called End of the Liner, and it was about this like cruise ship where after COVID, everybody started living on. Some people have lived their entire lives on this ship, and certain things about the ship are not what you think they are. And there was some exposing that happened in that story. It was really interesting, but I also don't know if this fits into Summerween properly, but that was just one story. So it's like, how do I judge an entire collection? Because I liked this one, I think this is the right answer, though I am considering removing all three of them from the running because this one comes out like halfway through Summerween. It's called The Beast You Are by Paul Tremblay, and one of the Summerween challenges is to read a book with orange on the cover, and I don't know that I really have a super orange book in the running right now, so this would be good for that. I don't know. Right now, I guess I'm committing to this. Next category I'm gonna call thrillers. They might have something else going on, but I have 3 thrillers to battle. We have 0 Days by Ruth Ware. We have a book I don't have, but I'm gonna check out the audiobook of Spare Room by Andrea Bartz. And we have Dead 11 by Jimmy Giuliano. Here's what happened with the thrillers. I have a lot of mystery or mystery thrillers on my TBR shelf, but I wanted to pick thriller specifically, like more high action ones where there's a little mystery plot because I have the cozy mystery and now I want something exciting. And I think maybe I made a mistake with Spare Room because I originally had this on my radar. I saw Gabby and or Olivia have it on their TBR, and I thought this was going to be an exciting one. And then I found out it's the sister of Julia Bartz who wrote one of my favorite thrillers of the year, The Writing Retreat. So this is one I have on hold for the library that I'm just waiting to come in, but it says it's a domestic thriller suspense about a woman who becomes involved with a married couple. The first chapter was just about her running away from her current situation. I guess she just broke up with somebody and now she's on a train and she's traveling to a new destination. That's pretty much all there was. So I went and watched Gabby's video where I saw this book in the thumbnail. I was gonna wait until I read it to see how our thoughts align, but she said the thrills don't come in until like the 70% mark, and then she gave it a 2-star. So that one was easy based on my own interest and now corrected assumptions about the vibe of it. It was easy to get rid of because 0 Days was quite intriguing. This is about a husband and wife who test the strengths of security systems, which I definitely forgot. I knew it was about a husband and wife and they had this job together. I thought it was more like of a spy job and they were doing bad stuff. So I read the first chapter as if they were breaking into this facility and trying to accomplish something. And then the first chapter ended and it turns out that she was hired by a company to break into their system to see how strong their system was. So I got a little like plot twist just in the first chapter. And now I don't really know what the plot is because it just ended there. And I think like her husband goes missing or something like that. If I were to rank the first chapter of this, because now technically it is on my TBR shelf, so I should be assigning it a number like I did in the whole video where I did that. This is a newer addition to the shelves, but I think I would give it like an 8. What got a 10 though is Dead 11. This is a thriller that is going to have some supernatural stuff going on. It's Groundhog Day kind of vibes, but it seems like some people on the island believe that it's Groundhog Day and they have to recreate the entire day the exact same way every single moment of their life, or like something bad is gonna happen. And so the first chapter opened with this old woman and she has this old neighbor, and every single morning they meet up and they go get their mail together, and then she shows up and her friend is not there, and so she goes and finds her friend and she's dead. So she takes her friend and strings her up by a tree, her dead body, so she looks like she's still getting the mail. So she's forcing her friend to still continue the day, which like, what the fuck? The book opened though with a note to the reader as if this is a true tale being told by our narrator, and his sister went missing on this island and now he is going to find her. And I guess like each chapter is titled The Old Woman and the Corpse, and then whatever the next one's gonna be. So I don't know if it's all gonna be, if it's gonna be some from his perspective or all from different perspectives on the island, or it kind of feels like a short story of everybody's experience on the island, but I'm hooked. I'm absolutely hooked. This is my pick and I'm really excited, but that means I also have this to read in a future video and I'm still like anticipating it, which is nice. And I think Spare Room, unless somebody convinces me otherwise, is off of my TBR. Next up, we've got some horror. So I'm going to read the first chapter of The Haunting of Alejandra by V. Castro, which is beautiful and has been in my TBR for a little bit now. A brand new addition to my TBR shelf is Everything That Darkness Eats by Eric LaRocca, which just came out like last week. And then again, I don't have the physical copy, but I'm getting the audiobook of Night's Edge by Liz Karen. All of these I'm going into pretty much knowing nothing except that they fit into the horror category somehow. I had to move locations. Liam is now home from school and we've got the horror. Speaking of being exhausted by your children, just kidding. The Haunting of Alejandra is about this woman who has a bunch of children, a husband who doesn't appreciate her. She spends her days just like cooking and cleaning and taking care of all these kids and having nothing for herself. When she starts to have intrusive thoughts about harming herself, ending it all. In the first chapter, she's telling her daughter the story of La Llorona, and then her husband goes out of town and she's just existing and she's tired. She gets in a car accident and she's seeing visions. So she is being haunted. That first chapter was in 2019 with Alejandra as our main character. And then the next chapter is going to be in Mexico following Atzi in 1522. So I guess we're going to get the origin of her family or the origin of what is haunting her. She is talking about her family tree and how she was adopted and doesn't know a lot about her family. So I'm guessing this is a relative, an ancestor. And I don't really know where the story's going from there, but I was on edge a little bit reading that. The out of the corner of her eye, seeing a figure and being scared. So I'm leaning towards this one because Night's Edge is not it for me. I didn't like the first chapter. Well, maybe that's not fair because I just didn't really like the audiobook narrator. And this is the horror book is the one I was hoping to do the audiobook for out of all my selections because I like listening to horror on audio, and I have both of these on Libro FM. This one was an early access one for influencers, and then I just had this one on there because I downloaded it a while ago. Night's Edge, I obviously don't have a physical copy. I have it reserved from the library, but I don't know. I didn't really like the audiobook narrator. It is somebody who I know. It's like an actress from Bodies, 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 which is a movie that I really liked, but it was like a woman and she was in her kitchen and she was just like getting ready to do something. Her mom was getting ready for work and it was slowly talking about how her mother is a vampire, and I think it's about this toxic relationship between them. It's giving me woman eating vibes. So maybe once I have a physical copy, I'll try again because the audiobook was not for me. But I did like Everything the Darkness Eats, the first chapter. The audiobook is good. I like the narrator, but I don't really know what's happening, like what the horror really is. In the first chapter, we're following this man. I love how it looks. So maybe this isn't the right pick for an audiobook because I want to look at it. I would give this one a 9 out of 10 and this one probably an 8 out of 10. For the first chapter, there was this man and he was at a hospital and he walks with a cane. He was 30 something and there was this child who was also there and he was just like entertaining this child and implying that he had like a kind of magical ability and that she could have wishes, but I don't think that was real. I know that this is about dark magic in a small town, but I don't know like if the dark magic has already happened and this is the after of it, or if we're going to be introduced to the dark magic or what's really going on. I feel like if I get through everything on my TBR, then I will add this as well. But right now my pick is The Haunting of Alejandra. And lastly, it's time for some weird lit fic. This one is vampire-y. It's called Peachy by Camry Kohler. I have Chlorine by Jade Song, which I didn't even know fit into this like weird horror-y category until somebody told me. And then I have leaning more thriller, but still some weird literariness, I think. Housewoman by Adora Nwora. I am so sorry to these books, but once I read this, they did not stand a chance. Oh my gosh, Chlorine is so for me. The first chapter reminded me of We Ride Upon Sticks a little bit, as far as being about this competitive sport and how it takes over your entire life, but to the point where in here she believes she's a mermaid. So it's also giving kind of Night Bitch vibes, which I didn't love as much, but there was just something so good about that writing. It was just 10 pages and it was about how these girls on the swim team just mutilate their bodies to be the perfect athlete and to be exactly what the coaches want them to be. How this sport is all they care about, and how her mother was like sacrificing things so she could be in this sport. Also because her mother is neglectful and was trying to force her, find something for her to do. This was the exact like weird literary fiction that I was hoping it would be, and I'm so excited to keep reading it. I thought I might choose Peachy because I'm really excited about this. The first chapter was gnarly. It was about this woman who she like found this dead dog on her way to work, and then she came home and her grandmother was dead, and all of this like nasty language. She was like drinking on the side of the road and puking, and like there are flies all over the body. And I guess she is gonna find out that she is kind of a witch. Maybe her grandmother dying like makes her have to take over this position as a restoration witch, and there's vampire witches who are the ones who killed her grandmother. So there's like a mystery to solve. But I can't say I was enjoying the descriptions of the first chapter, but it is giving that like horror-y vibe. I thought it would be more satirical, a little fun, and maybe it is. Obviously it was just like 10 pages. And then Housewoman, unfortunately the first chapter just kind of set up what the synopsis did, so it didn't really give me any more. And so this woman from Lagos who was, I mean, is taken or encouraged to move to the States, and she's being given as a gift to this man. And the first chapter was just him walking into the kitchen and she was making food, and she was like, I'm your gift, I'm your wife. And I feel like there's gonna be so much interesting stuff to uncover in here. But Chlorine without a doubt is the winner. So let's talk about the whole TBR and what we just did. So we've got Chlorine for the weird vibes, Dead 11 for more weird vibes, but this is supposed to be my thriller, A Sliver of Darkness for the short story collection, The Haunting of Alejandra for the horror, though I feel like we've got horror vibes everywhere. Oh my gosh, look at the colors. I love it. And then the one that I don't have a physical copy of, I don't even know what color the spine is, The Murder is a Piece of Cake. It is so colorful. I'm so excited about this. It's funny how in each category, or many of the categories, I had like a vampire story to choose, and I didn't end up picking any of the vampire stories. But maybe that's a good thing, because there is one book coming out during Summerween besides the short story collection I told you about. It's called Sucker, and I'm thinking if I can get my hands on it during the readathon, I'm gonna add it to my TBR because it's a vampire story, but only if I have room and only if I finish everything. So that's that. We should probably look at the challenges and hope that I'm hitting them all. If you're considering participating and this is the first you're hearing of it, you definitely have time to still build your TBR, and you don't have to meet any of these challenges. Challenge number 1 is to read a book in the dark, so I will go with the audiobook. Number 2 is to read a thriller. I think I'm doing that. Not a traditional one though, maybe. Number 3, read a book that takes place in the fall. I have no clue. This one feels like it probably takes place in the summer. This one I got no indication of when it is. Dead 11 takes place in 1994. It says the woman in it went missing in December, but who knows when he's trying to track her down. So I might still be on the hunt for something to complete that prompt. Read a book with orange and black on the cover. I just realized The Haunting of Alejandra is an orangey yellow. Like, it's definitely not yellow, but I don't think it's a true orange. It's kind of gold, but there is black. So if I don't end up getting to the Paul Tremblay short story collection, which I would like to, I can technically count this and I would be okay with it. And then the last one is read a manga, graphic novel, or a novella. I could have sworn when I saw the announcement video, they also talked about short story collections, but honestly, these are really long short stories for a short story. So I'm gonna say this is a collection of novellas. So that's it. Welcome to day 1 of Summerween. Right now I am on the beach and I'm reading one of these books, and I'll see you in a couple days with the vlog recapping that. Thank you so much for checking out my TBR video. If you want to let me know what you'll be reading, just so I know, are we buddy reading anything? That would be fun. I'll chat with you in the comments below, and I'll see you in a couple days. Bye.